In this lesson, we'll talk about adding welds to our bike frame. So let's go ahead and take a look at some reference images. And anytime you have metal pieces that are connected together, there's going to be some methodology behind the way that those are actually connected in the real world. And welding is a big part of connecting some of these pieces together. If we go ahead and take a look at this particular pipe, you can see how there's this bead of material down here, and that's where these two pieces have been welded together. Okay, there are different types of welds. There's what's called a MIG weld and a TIG weld, and the welds look a little bit different. Okay, you've got here a very kind of clean-looking weld, and you can see how that creates this sort of half-moon shape. They often call it, it's kind of like a stack of dimes all the way around here. Okay, same thing right here. This is in a very rough state, but you can see how that's welded together. You can see how it creates that particular shape. Now, very rarely will you need to get that detailed in creating the actual shape of that stack of dimes or that overlapping material that's been welded on there. Here's another little weld. Very rarely will you need to create that particular shape, but a lot of times just adding that indication that that's there will add a lot of realism. So if we take a look at this bike, you'll see in some of these places the kind of bulging material, even though it's painted over, kind of right in here and around this area. Any place where these pipes are connected together, you're going to see a little bead of weld there. Okay, so adding that sort of a thing in our computer graphic is going to make it a little bit more real, right? Because if we just have things connected to one to another, and there's no indication how those are actually connected, it takes away from the realism a little bit. So adding little details like that you can find is going to just help you sell the 3D model that you create as being just a little bit more realistic. And this is going to be something that's pretty easy to create. You'll notice, first of all, that I've connected everything up. So just using the techniques that we looked at in the last lesson, I've gone ahead and we connected these, and I just used the same procedure to go ahead and connect to right here and also down here, and then connect both of these up. Okay, and for these, if you want to go ahead and connect those to here, you can use the same procedure. It'll be a little bit more complex because you're turning the corner, but it's just a matter of matching up 12 to 12 points here. So you probably want to come in and add some extra resolution here and here, pick out your points, go ahead and cut that off, and then you could just bridge that across. Okay, for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and leave those penetrating in sort of a little bit to the inside, but you can connect those up if you want to as well and create welds there. So let's concentrate on this piece, and so the welds we want to create are going to be on these pieces that are actually connected together. Okay, and you can see I've gone ahead and connected this cross piece together as well in the same way. Alright, so adding these welds, what we want to do is concentrate on that connection strip, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a polygon subobject. I'll go ahead and select all of these polygons that are coming around the side here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just select these all the way around. And this guy. So we've got that, basically that strip selected. Okay, so now what I want to do is just add a little bit of resolution in here and bring it out a little bit. So to do that in one motion, I'm going to use bevel. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just do a bevel. And now I'm going to pull it out like that, and I don't really want that, so I'm going to go ahead and choose local normal, and I'm going to take this height down. Right now it is about 10 inches, looks like. So I'm going to take this way down, the height amount, and I'm also going to take the outline amount closer to 0. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take that down. Let's go ahead and bring this down quite a bit. Okay, and I'm going to take this down a little bit closer to 0. In this case, we're going up a little bit. So you end up with something like this. So it's just kind of inset just a little bit, and it's also pulled out just a little bit. So just just a tiny little bit. You could also come in and scale this in or out. And so you're just adding a couple of edges in there and pulling that out a little bit. So now when we smooth this, so for instance, I could take and right-click this and go to our NURMS toggle to kind of get a smooth preview of this, turn off our edged faces, and let's go ahead and add one iteration under the subdivision surface, you can kind of see where that's starting to get a little bit of a bead of something going on in here. Now we could come in and take the edges, or the vertices rather, and pull that out to just emphasize that a little bit more in the area that we want, which in this case is right on the outside of this. So we can come in and just shape this a little bit more. Okay, and then you get that sort of a bead. Okay, so even from back here, you get a little bit of detail in there that wasn't there before. And so when you're looking at this, it makes it a little bit harder to tell if it's CG or if it's real, because it takes a little bit more effort to add something like that in to make it seem a little bit more realistic. Okay, same thing up here. You can see how this just connects right in, but the way that it's created in reality doesn't happen like that. So we want to go ahead and again select these polygons, and we'll just select these all the way around. Just do this all the way around, and then again we'll do bevel. The settings are going to be pretty much the same on this, so you can just take them and tweak them a little bit for whatever your needs are. Okay, I can go ahead and bring that in a little bit more, and then some of these pieces down here that may need to be tweaked, I can go ahead and just manually tweak those a little bit, kind of clean things up a bit. Okay, and then up here we may need to go ahead and bring this in, make this a little bit narrower. Okay, and then do the same thing up here. Go ahead and bring that in a little bit where that's connecting up there. Okay, and just do a little bit of shaping on this. All right, and you may need to add another line in there to get the hardness that you want. But now we've got this kind of a bead in there. Okay. So just go along the connection points and try your hand at adding some welds to those points. You also want to come in and create the hardness for this. So you saw that when we smooth this, it kind of smoothed everything out. We want to create a little bit of hardness on all of these edges. So since we're going to be smoothing this, we want to go ahead and just select edge, select a ring, and we're going to add edges along any edges that we want to be harder. So this is a very useful technique as far as when you're working with polygons and you're going to be smoothing them. A lot of times you'll want to build the hardness of the edges into the mesh, and so instead of kind of creasing things, you can build that in using edge loops. So I'll just run connect, go ahead and pull that up to the top. The tighter the edges are together, the tighter the edge will be when you smooth it. Go ahead and select that ring, connect, and let's pull that up to the top. Okay, and then to add the sharpness on this top, we'll go ahead and select this ring, do connect, and this time we'll do 2 segments. Take the slide down to 0, and then we'll use pinch to just pull those out. Okay, so in this case, if you remember what it looked like before, if we now smooth that, you can see that's nice and hard on the top there. So you want to go and do that as well on the sides here if you want those to be nice and sharp. And some of these you might not. You want to take a look at your reference. But I think we do want a little bit of hardness on most of these. And that's just going to be on the edges of those cylinders. All right. So go ahead and build in your welds on your frame. Go ahead and tighten up some of the edges that you want to add. Okay. And then we'll come in the next lesson and start to build the gas tank. And for this we're going to use splines, but we're going to use them in a little bit different way. So we're not just going to create geometry along the spline. We're going to use the splines to create a cage from which we can create a surface. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start to do that in the next lesson.